Hello and welcome to the 44 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Weekend Preview. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. This evening's episode, as always, brought to us by our good friends at S2 Cognition. S2 Cognition delivers a revolutionary approach to helping athletes understand how in-game decisions impact their performance from youth levels all the way to the pros. And by joining us this evening, you have also made a good decision because I am joined by the great Aaron Fitt, the great Joe Healy. Gentlemen, it's Wednesday evening, as far as I know. How we doing? Last weekend of the regular season. Let's go.
Let's go.
This is the no disrespect to obviously regionals weekend, the excitement of like opening weekend of Omaha, the kind of transition period between the last regular season weekend into conference tournament weekend is my favorite time on the college baseball calendar because it's just kind of wall-to-wall chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really no stopping between it, right? So we have games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, obviously. Then you've still got some, Big West on Sunday because they're still not doing a tournament. So there's might be some good games there. And then before you know it, Tuesday, you've got the conference tournaments getting started. So like it's kind of wall to wall in a way that we don't get anywhere else in the calendar.
Yeah, the Tuesday conference tournament is the best. Fitzy, can I do a self-reported nonsense tracker violation, please?
Please.
Okay, so as you know, I have I'm in Boston, trip here for the day job, and then I will stay up here for the ALS game on Friday night, Notre Dame at Boston College, which is just unbelievable. What a privilege and an honor it is. So when I was packing, I was doing laundry and packing at the same time, and so I laid out boxer shorts for my trip, and then because my brain was toggling between putting stuff in a suitcase and then folding clothes and putting them away, I took the boxer shorts that I laid out for my trip and I put them back in the closet. Wake up today in the suitcase only to find nary a pair of boxer shorts. So just made a run to Target and picked up some new boxer shorts. I think the world will be pleased to know. But I do feel like I need to self-report that.
-2 big wins, Runes.
Can hey,
just -2. It's is that like a secondary violation?
Secondary violation. -2. Wear it.
Yeah.
At the risk of too much information, at least you did not forget underwear entirely as you leave for a cruise where you don't have access to purchasing things on the fly. I'm not saying that anyone here has done that, but if they did, it'd be a real inconvenience and a real damper on your vacation. Although, you're on a cruise, so like swim trunks kind of work, but it was still not hypothetically speaking, it would not be a great situation if someone did that.
If the hypothetical suspect was a newlywed, that's like slightly more tolerable. If that hypothetical suspect had been married 20 years, like someone else on this call, I don't think that would have played. I think that would have been a real problem.
It was quite an icebreaker in a hypothetical situation where the person who was on the cruise, who they just started dating, perhaps.
Oh gosh,
it was awesome. like a hey, my sister is going on this cruise. Do you want to? I'm going to go too. Do you want to come along? I know we've only been dating for 6 weeks, but what do you say? And that's it. And again, hypothetically, if you forgot your underwear in that situation, it would make it. It just wouldn't be a good look. There was a lot of there would hypothetically be a lot of like washing pairs of underwear in the sink and drying them out on a line.
Ooh, that's fair.
Do what you got to do, Joe. I'm going to give you +2 for resourcefulness.
Oh, thank you.
Survive in advance.
Survive in advance. Fitzy, by the way, only -2. I feel like that you're encouraging self-reporting right there. That's good leadership right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's I feel like the nonsense tracker point system has to stay small scale until we actually get to Omaha. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just my feeling about it.
I like it. Boys, let's play the feud. Let's preview these series. We got the 10 series. Only 3 of us tonight. Kendall was too good for us tonight. He's I don't know what, maybe he's the Houston Summer Breeze 12U softball team's got to get in their war room. Big draft coming up, I'm sure.
We've got 12U swimming tonight.
Oh, swimming. I like that. We still have not decided on Jar Rogers or Stone Rogers.
Keep it moving, Roots.
Yes, but but that's good. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We got a little twist tonight. We'll preview the series. We'll do our player of interest as always. The other thing the three of us are going to do is the two teams in the series, without overthinking it, hopefully, all-time favorite players on each of these two teams. So just let her rip on that. Fitzy, you are the ultimate leadoff hitter, the consummate leadoff hitter. So pick a series, preview it, and let us begin.
Okay. Let's go. I'm gonna go Tennessee, South Carolina. That's top of mind for me because I just, having seen the situation with South Carolina, their injuries, they're struggling. They've lost 9 of the last 12 games. They're at home. This is like one of those immovable object versus the unstoppable force situations. Can Tennessee actually win a series on the road? Something they haven't done. Can South Carolina just freaking win a series, period, because they've lost 3 in a row and they've lost 9 of the last 12 games and they're banged up. And I think it's Eli Jones, TBA this weekend. Now, keep in mind, Jack Mahoney and, he's going to pitch one of those games most likely. And Joe, you mentioned it. Becker. Thank you. Mahoney and Becker are both slated to probably pitch, but like with weather, they didn't want to. So I mean, they're not like toast to the mouth, but like the fact is, Will Sanders isn't healthy. They still don't have Noah Hall. I guess that's not going to happen at this point. We heard McGillis now had come back and now he's out again. Is that right? I mean, it's just like they can't get right. They just can't get right. And Tennessee, I feel like they're due to at some point. Like, don't they have to win something on the road? And I don't know. This is just an interesting series for me. And so I kind of went back and forth with my picks. I think I originally picked the Gamecocks, and then I switched to Tennessee, and so that's what I'm taking. But it's I think it's just a fascinating series. And for the Gamecocks, like trying to get into the top 8, like they've slipped out of the top 8 now. If they win this last series, your top 5 RPI team with like a 17 wins or so in the league, like you still got a chance at this thing. Whereas Tennessee trying to host a regional, they're 14-13 in the league, in the 20s. But if they win this series, they jump into the top 16 in the RPI and get 16 wins. So like they're still in the hosting mix if they can win. So there's a lot on the line here.
Fitzy, before we go to Joe for his player of interest, favorite all-time Gamecock, favorite all-time Vol.
Well, I mean, obviously it's Michael Roth for South Carolina. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. That's my guy. Maybe my all-time favorite college baseball player, except for Chris Burke, who's my all-time favorite Volunteer. I mean, come on, it's a no-brainer. Chris from Louisville. Let's go, Berkey.
Yes, well done.
What was the stat you said the other day about Berkey in 2001?
Yeah, SEC Player of the Year. He scored 105 runs. He also had 20 home runs and 49 stolen bases. It was a really ridiculous year.
God, it was insane.
So that's incredible.
Player.
I'm not going to pick Chris from Louisville just to be, just to get after him. Joe, what say you? Give us a player of interest for the series, and then your, an all-time favorite Gamecock and Vol.
I'll go Jack Mahoney, South Carolina. Like Aaron said, I anticipate him starting one of the games. It's just kind of a matter of them picking their spot. But last weekend, he was really, really good against Arkansas, and they absolutely needed him. They're going to need him again this weekend. So that, to me, that's the guy for them with so much uncertainty around the rest of it. Noah Hall's still out. I'm pessimistic we see him again. That's based on no actual new reporting. It's just we haven't heard anything about him in so long. And Will Sanders was seen in the dugout in a walking boot in Tuesday's game, and he is confirmed to not be pitching this weekend. So we will see on that. So Jack Mahoney's my guy there. All-time favorite Gamecock, I'm going to go Justin Smoke, because his name, that's just such a cool name too, Justin Smoke.
He was a
and for similar reasons, for Tennessee, I'm going to go JP Arencibia, because that's a fun name to say. JP Arencibia.
Another great pull, Joseph.
But I also just remember those. I mean, those guys played around the same time, roughly, and so like those were two names I just remember from the early days of me. My favorite players are going to be, I would guess, over-representatively from the years like 2002 to 2010, because that was when I was first getting into college baseball. So that's probably where a lot of mine are going to come from.
Those are great years. But you said walking boot for Will Sanders, Joe, and I'm just going to speak to college baseball, proper right now. Like, I don't want to see walking boots or tarps from here to 4. Like, just put them away. Like, we're done. So, and by the way, Justin Smoke, was there a bigger switch hitter ever than him? I mean, just an enormous slugging switch hitter. My player of interest is Drew Beam. 3 of his last 5 starts have not been good. The last 2 have been particularly poor, and I just think he's really good. I think Drew Beam is awesome, and so if Tennessee is going to reach this potential, we all keep feeling tantalized by. Drew Beam's got to be Drew Beam. And so I'm really curious to see what he looks like this weekend. Favorite all-time Gamecock is, I'm going to go Adrian Morales. Love Adrian Morales, third baseman back in the Michael Roth era. And I loved his recruiting story. Coach Tanner used to say, we asked the Florida JUCO coaches, who do you hate the most? And they all said Adrian Morales. And he said, we'll take 2 of them. And then Liam Spence, another favorite.
Nate Jr.
Liam Spence, Nate Jr. Well said. Joseph, pick the next series.
I'm going to go Indiana State, Missouri State. As one of the hosts of the Missouri Valley Conference Coaches Roundtable twice a year, I feel like it is my duty to, especially with Patrick not on the show, it is my duty to choose this series. 2 top teams in the Missouri Valley Conference, a lot on the line, not just standings wise. If Missouri State were to sweep Indiana State, and it is at home, I obviously wouldn't bet on that with how good Indiana State's been, but there is a path for Missouri State to at least get a share of the MVC title. But also Indiana State still maybe on the periphery of hosting. That loss to Murray State last weekend really kind of put a damper on that. But it could still happen. They win the regular season title, they win the tournament title. There is a path there for them as well, but it starts with taking care of business this weekend. I also find it fascinating because Indiana State is clearly the best team in the Missouri Valley Conference this year, and it is classically Indiana State. They've got a couple of workhorses on the mound, Matt Jacek, Connor Finlong. They've got, some depth in the bullpen. The offense doesn't overwhelm you, but it's 9 guys who all can do a job and handle the bat. And they're just going to make every routine play. They're never going to beat themselves. You're going to have to beat them. And for the most part, teams haven't been able to do so in conference play. On the other side, you have Missouri State, for my money, is the most talented team in the Missouri Valley Conference. Like, they've got some real arms. They've got some real velocity. They've got some real thump in the lineup. Spencer Nivens is a really exciting player. When he's healthy, Cam Craddock is as exciting a player as there is kind of at the mid-major level, I feel like. So it's kind of you've got your kind of classic, just solid, old, veteran Indiana State team and a Missouri State team that has some exciting talent that feels like it's starting to kind of put it together and could be dangerous in a regional just because they are that kind of talented. All-time favorite players, Indiana State, I'll go Jeremy Guerrero. That's from the recent days, but how could you resist that story? A guy who was, for his first 4 years of his career, was just kind of a guy, was just kind of a swing man who was okay. And then he comes in his 5th year and is just like the best pitcher in the mid-major level, certainly in the MVC. And what I find particularly compelling about his story is it's not like he just added a 5th pitch and suddenly it was like kind of the Mariano Rivera story where he just started messing around with a cutter and all of a sudden it was the best pitch in baseball, or he didn't add 5 miles per hour of velocity or anything like that. Like, I ask a bunch of questions. I covered the Missouri Valley tournament that year, and I asked a bunch of people a bunch of questions about how Jeremy Guerrero was better, and nobody really gave me a great answer. So it just is kind of one of those things where a guy just came back and was all of a sudden one of the best pitchers in college baseball, which is, I think, the mystery there actually makes it an even better story. For Missouri State, I'm going to go Sean Markham. Longtime big leaguer, was on the 2003 Southwest Missouri State College World Series team. There were a couple of other guys on that team that I remember. Tony Piazza, a catcher who was not related to Mike Piazza somehow. They had a starter whose last name was Mulholland, who was also not related to Terry Mulholland, as far as I know. That team was just kind of fun. I remember that team being in Omaha is a cool story. And I don't feel bad for kind of calling out a bunch of those guys because Missouri State's one of those programs that has enough choices. I feel like I've left you guys plenty of options and not just run the board on them.
Yeah, you sure have, Joseph. Player of interest in the series, I'll give you Randall Diaz. I think Indiana State is sort of the mid-major you're thinking there are, but Randall Diaz is one of the reasons they're not exactly the same. This is a kid from Puerto Rico with physicality and flair, and he's a ball player. And I just think he makes them a little bit different. He's probably going to end up with double-digit home runs as a shortstop who makes every single play. But yeah, what you said about Missouri State, Joe, is interesting. Favorite all-time Indiana State player? I want to say Larry Bird, but that's probably tired. Give me David Doster. David Doster, I thought, was on their 86 Omaha team. Unfortunately, he would have been 16 years old at the time. David Doster was a Phillies farmhand. He was like a 4A player, but he was a great player at Indiana State. For Missouri State, give me Jeremy Ironman in 2017 when they went to a super regional against TCU. He kind of just like won the Fayetteville regional by himself, it felt like. There's another obvious candidate for Missouri State in that time period, but give me Jeremy Ironman. Fitzy?
Yeah. Player of interest here for me, guys. I'm going to go Jake Eddington from Missouri State. This is really the top prospect here for this team. A guy that I know Seif really liked when he saw him early in the year. Alabama transfer up to 96 miles an hour. Show you, decent slider and a changeup. The walk rate has been high for him. I think that's maybe been the knock on him. It's 35 walks in 47.2 innings. He's coming off Tommy John surgery, I believe, last year. I missed all of last season. So, maybe the command has taken some time to get back, but he was good last week. And so, kind of an X factor guy for the Bears. Favorite players from these programs. I mean, this is, hey, look, I'm going to take the low hanging fruit and take Sean Mania because
yes,
he was awesome. And I spent some time with him in the Cape that summer, enjoyed, being around him a little bit. Somebody with a good personality and obviously a great pitcher who went on to have a great career, but he was certainly electric that year. A lot of fun to watch. And then from Missouri State, I mean, it's Matt Hall. Is that the guy you're thinking of, Runes? From the Jeremy Ironman era?
Well, I was going to say Jake Berger is another.
Yeah,
obvious.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah,
that's fair. Matt Hall's the guy that I like.
Matt Hall's awesome.
I covered a little lefty. I covered the super regional that year that they played in Fayetteville, which they lost. Arkansas won that super, but I just remember Matt Hall was a baller, and I think he went the distance in the one game that Missouri State won, and he was just like strutting all over the place, like just eating it up. You're in front of all these fans in Arkansas, and he loved the moment. That's my kind of guy. I love that little guy with some cojones. Like that's fantastic.
It's actually a much better pull than Jake Berger, although both are awesome, but that is well done. Yeah, Matt Hall let Fayetteville know about it. Boys, I'll take us to another series. Give me Duke at Miami. I don't want to over preview this. I'll give you my personal perspective. Duke is the team I'm skeptical of. I love them, but I just, like when it's opener, you're just like, gosh, dang, like that's a lot of pitching management. And now Andrew Healy came out of the game last week, with some type of arm situation. So I love Duke's team because I love Alex Mooney, but I just keep waiting for Duke to back off a little bit. And it looks like the last week's been tough, right? They lose the series to Georgia Tech. They lost to Gardner Webb in the midweek. And Miami's the team that I keep really loving, but they got to do something. Like Miami's having a nice year, but I'm thinking of them as an Omaha team. And if they're going to be that, like, okay, this is a weekend they gotta put their foot down on the gas pedal. So it's two interesting teams as far as my personal evaluation of them. They're back to back in the RPI. The winner of this series really elevates a hosting resume if it all breaks right. So there's a lot on the line. I like both teams very much. Both teams have outstanding bullpens. They've got stars on the position player side. So very interesting series, a very important series. Favorite Miami Hurricanes, Charles Johnson and Danny Graves. I mean, there you go. Like two of my all-time favorites. Got thrown out at second base, boys, by Charles Johnson. Tried to steal on him. I don't know why Coach Murphy thought that was a good idea. I felt like I was out by 50 feet. That's how out I felt. Favorite Duke Blue Devil, Jimmy Herron, Philly guy. Ricky Henderson type where he's throwing left-handed, he's hitting right-handed. I think he was on the 16 team that won that first. No, he was on the 18 team that won the regional at Georgia. So anyway, Jimmy Herron, Philly guy. Fitzy, player of interest.
Oh boy. Player of interest here. I'm going to go with, geez Louise. Runes, which direction should I go? I'll go with Gage Zeal. Let's go Gage Zeal.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, that's an important guy for Miami. Set the tone here on I guess, Thursday night since this series opens on Thursday. But they're Miami. I agree with you. Great bullpen. Same with Duke. Both these have great bullpens. Miami, it feels like, does have some guys though who are capable of going longer into games, and let's see if they can do it. Duke is just not going to be built that way. They're going to use their openers, and then they're going to go with their bullpen, and that's just who they are. But I think for Miami to make a run, I think it would be a good sign to see if they get some length out of some of their starters. But Gage Zeal, that's my guy. Favorite players for these two teams, boy, oh boy. I mean, I'll go ahead and again, I'll take some low-hanging fruit. I'll take Marcus Stroman for Duke. I mean, come on, he's like 5'8".
It's a good one.
Ish. Like, come on.
Big attitude. He's like an all-fit Hall of Famer.
All fit, legend for sure. Like he was a lot of fun to be around, and I appreciated the fact that after his Duke career, I asked him for a favor. I asked him to do a Q&A for my wife's aunt had like a kids magazine down in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Marcus did a Q&A for it, which I just thought was really classy. So good guy, Marcus Stroman, easy to root for. And then boy, for Miami, let's see here. I don't have one top of mind. There's so many good ones that have played for Miami.
Pat Burrell must have been all fit at least 0 times, right?
At least zero times is pretty well said.
Pat the Bat was not all fit material.
Yeah, not so much.
Good player though.
I don't know if this is the right answer, but I'm gonna go John Jay. Just like a consummate professional. Like he ran around the bases with a copy of the Federalist Papers hanging out of his back pocket, which I always thought was cool.
That's an excellent plug.
Just like a spark plug guy, wound up having a nice big league career, hung around for a long time. Just a I don't know, just a good player. He was actually a really good college player, but like wound up having, I think, a better big league career than I would have expected. So just neat player.
Fair. Who knew the Federalist Papers were getting referenced tonight?
Yeah.
Joe, what say you?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like I thought if anybody was going to reference the Federalist Papers, I'd come up with a way. But Aaron snuck in there and got it.
Bravo.
Good for him. Player of interest here. I will also talk about a Miami pitcher. I will go with Carlos Lequerica. I don't know if that's pronounced properly or not, but we're gonna go with that. Not only has he been, I kind of want to just picked him because I want to give him some flowers. He's been really, really good for them. And I was kind of skeptical. I mean, he's a guy who, this is his 4th school. He's done the tour of all of kind of the schools down in that area, except maybe a stopover at FAU, but he's been at Bethune-Cookman. Then he went to Miami-Dade College, and then he was at FIU, and now he's at Miami. And I was like, okay, this guy's never really, he didn't put up numbers at FIU, what is Miami seeing him? And obviously they saw something because he's been one of their best arms. So I'll go that direction with him. All-time favorite Miami player. I'm going to go with Charlton Jimerson.
Yeah. Chudini.
Just one of the first players I remember recognizing from TV. I remember watching Miami in the that time on the CBS College World Series games and seeing Charlton Jimerson. And I was a young Astros fan at the time, and he got drafted by the Astros, so I kind of followed his career. I also considered Jameel Weeks as a Miami guy that I was going for. We could sit here all day with Ryan Braun, obviously. For Duke, I'm going Chris Capuano, a longtime big leaguer who pitched for Duke before Duke was good, for lack of a better way of putting it. They had a couple of those guys. Then they had some players. I looked up their draft history, Scott Schoenweiss, MLB player from that time. Sean McNally was a big league, or Ryan Jackson was a big leaguer. I was looking at the wrong line here. But
Sean McNally might have played in the big leagues. Did he get a cup of coffee?
I think he was definitely a AAA player at the very least.
Yeah,
right?
he was a AAA player. Yeah, so he was listed here. I was looking at the wrong line, but yeah, he was AAA. Ryan Jackson, a big league. Anyway, long story short, Quentin McCracken played for Duke. Apparently, that was a new one for me. I didn't know that. Mike Trombley. Now I'm going to stop reading the internet over the podcast.
Good job, Joe.
Yes, thank you. Where was I? Oh, Chris Capuano, longtime big leaguer for the Brewers. That's my Duke selection. Also, just a guy that's less of a memory of mine and more just of like hey, I didn't know Chris Capuano played at Duke. That's kind of neat.
I like that very much. Fitzy, series number 4, please.
Oh, yes. All right, then. let's go with. I guess we should probably go North Carolina Clemson. It's a big series.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we just did ACC. Let's keep it. Let's go somewhere else here. Let's go West Virginia, Texas.
Okay.
I mean, hey, West Virginia is the class of the Big 12 this year, and they just keep on winning series. I think that's pretty impressive. I mean, like it's just they just keep on doing it. It's been a heck of a season for them. Texas at this point, they're kind of safe as like a at-large team. They're probably not a host, but they're at home this weekend. I don't know. I mean, it's just I don't have a whole lot to say about this series. I'm just kind of intrigued here. Can West Virginia keep it rolling?
Yeah, it feels like justice would be served if West Virginia wins the series and wins the league. That would be justice. Joe, what do you got for Fitzy? Before we go to Joe, you got a all-time favorite Mountaineer or Longhorn?
Well, again, I feel like it's low-hanging fruit, but I just really like Alec Manoa. He was just super fun. Again, a guy that I remember spending time with in the Cape. I remember he showed up at the All-Star game, even though he wasn't in the All-Star game. And I was shooting photos down the line and just talking to Tom Holliday, and Manoa is just over there, just like shooting the breeze and just like it's just a junkie, right? Like if you got a night off, you're not in the All-Star game, you can go whatever you want to do, you're playing every night. You got a night off, but you want to go watch baseball and like hang around and talk baseball. And like I just thought that was cool. Like, the guys that are really like the sickos, the true diehards, like it shows.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's got tons of personality, so I thought that was fun. For Texas, I mean,
Calvin Murray,
what a pull that is.
Boy, did anybody ever look better in pony cleats than Calvin Murray? The answer is no.
That's a heck of a pull. I tell you, it's not Roger Clemens.
Ooh. Cody Clemens it is.
Cody Clemens is not a bad choice. I mean, I don't know. It's just like there's just so many guys at Texas.
So many guys.
Where do you even start? David Marule? I'll go with David Marule. Why not? I mean,
it's a good one.
He was a very important player for that team in 2005. And so, again, my first year in Omaha was that team, and he was a key part of that deal. So I really should say Houston Street, but I feel like that's John Manuel's guy, and I feel like that would be it'd be wrong of me to try to sneak in there.
That's fair. Joseph, I'll just tell you guys, I'm not going to overthink it. Alec Manoa is my choice for West Virginia too. He is the answer.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, first of all, my player of interest for this series, I'm going to go Grant Hussey for West Virginia. I think it's just kind of a cool. I mean, he's been really hot lately. Leads the team in home runs in Big 12 play. One of the most consistent bats throughout that time. Also think it's cool that he's a West Virginia guy, like being a leader on this team. I remember when he was coming in as a recruit a couple of years ago to West Virginia, how much Randy Mazey really hammered home just the idea of because Hussey was a draft guy. He's a guy who had opportunities, had options, and was just really committed to going to WVU and making something, having a legacy there. So that's kind of cool. And so Grant Hussey, my player to watch there. In the YouTube comments, Mark S., who has been commenting quite a bit, mentioned my West Virginia player to choose here, Jed Jerko.
Good one.
For West Virginia, like super utility guy in the big leagues. Much like my Chris Capuano pull, was a guy who was at WVU before the WVU program was really anywhere. Was a really good player there. So Jed Jerko is my guy there. For Texas, I could be intellectually dishonest and throw out like a Calvin Schiraldi or something, but I was not alive when Calvin Schiraldi was pitching at the University of Texas. So I'm going to go Chance Wheelis because one of the moments that is burned into my brain more than anything else is Chance Wheelis hitting that home run in the 2005 College World Series, I believe against Baylor. His shoulder was popping out of socket on like every swing. And so he would swing and then have to kind of move it around, and it looked horrible, but he was still taking hacks, and basically all he could do is just swing as hard as he could. And he got a hold of one and hit a ball out. And it's just kind of one of those indelible moments that's continues to rattle around in my brain.
Oh, that's really good. Really, really good. Boys, so my player of interest in the series is LeBaron Johnson Jr. When he is right and throwing strikes, he's basically unhittable, and he gives Texas 2 aces with Lucas Gordon. But he's just, he's not he's not that guy every week out. He's not at that point in his pitching trajectory. He looks like a front of the rotation big leaguer on the right day. So LeBaron Johnson is my player of interest. I said Alek Manoah. For Texas, God, there's so many choices. I'm going to say Greg Swindell and Keith Moreland, Zeke and Zonk, two of my favorite Longhorns. And then give me Billy Bates. Billy Bates was by far my favorite player growing up. I think his 3 years at Texas, they played in the national championship game all 3 years. He didn't ever not play in a national championship game. I need to get on Google and confirm that. But just a little, oh my gosh. Fitzy, if there was an all-fit team back then, Billy Bates, you'd actually retire his number. No one would ever wear number 1 again. That's how Billy Bates, he was so all-fit. So
love that.
Oh, he's the best. Joe, next series, please. You're muted if you're talking.
Well, I was trying to decide between, do I unmute myself first or do I look at the spreadsheet first to make sure I don't, let's see, what do we got here?
Decisions.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go Arkansas and Vanderbilt. Two teams that are kind of in a similar place within the SEC. Arkansas is, at this point, probably locked up a national seed. They're leading the SEC, but they're only, I believe, a game up on Florida. So they don't have a lot of wiggle room there. They need to kind of continue to win games if they want to win that SEC regular season title. But with 19 SEC wins already, they're in a good shape for a national seed. So that is, they're kind of regardless of, don't get swept, I guess. Don't sweat it out. But I think they're in good shape there. Vanderbilt, though, interestingly, is kind of, at 17-10 in the league, is in good shape to host. Listen to the Nerdcast if you haven't already. These guys covered this extensively, but probably feels like it needs to do a little something this weekend, and they're at home to shore up any hope to be a national seed necessarily. Unfortunately, with so many of these series, injuries are a big part of the story here. Vanderbilt, no Carter Holton, 50-50 on Hunter Owen. That was an issue last week. Nobody knows that better than Aaron. He was at that series where it really just wasn't competitive. Florida just kind of ran him off the field. So that's something to watch there. Arkansas, too, Peyton Stovall's done for the year, unfortunately. Torn labrum, he's out. Jared Wagner, we're kind of still waiting on him to come back. I'll be honest, I kind of assumed he'd be back by this point. He was not. So we're still kind of waiting there. But Tavian Josenberger is back. He came back last week, so that's good news. And Brady Tygart has looked strong. Now, he's only thrown 6 innings across 3 appearances, but they've stretched him out a little more. And he continues to kind of check every box. And that's a little bit of a wild card for Arkansas, because if they continue to stretch him out at this pace, you could look up and, by regionals, he's maybe a guy that can give you, 85, 90 pitches and see how that goes. And maybe that is a little bit of the ace in the hole. And if they're working with a rotation of, Hagen Smith and Hunter Holland and Brady Tygart, like suddenly Arkansas goes from a team we've been looking at as, this team maybe is a few arms short to maybe actually being a team we look at as having more options than we thought they had 6 weeks ago. So time will tell on that, but I think they're actually in a pretty decent place when it comes to pitching with the way things are shaping up.
Yeah.
Excellent. Joe, I need you for something here. Before I do Vandy, Arkansas, I can confirm that Billy Bates played in 3 straight national title games, 83 to 85 at Texas. He's from is it Aldine, Texas, or Aldine, Texas?
Aldine. All
right, go Mustangs. So anyway, there you go. He's a great high school football player too. Player of interest in your series, Joe, give me Enrique Bradfield Jr. I just feel like he doesn't take over games as much as I want him to. But he did do that in the postseason a little bit last year. And whatever Enrique Bradfield's got for us, like the time is now. He's had a fine year. It's it's not been stellar or anything, but it's been fine. Like the worst version of him is a great player. But I think he's got another gear in him. I think he kind of teased us with us in the postseason last year. If he can find that gear, that's a huge deal for Vandy. Favorite all-time Commodore is Sonny Gray for me. Love Sonny Gray. And favorite Arkansas Razorback is Jax Biggers. Their JUCO shortstop a few years ago. Absolutely love Jax Biggers. Scott, our good friend Scott Gustafson still gives me a hard time about it because we did a Arkansas show one time, and he asked me who are key players, and I said Jax Biggers, and he's like, No, I mean, like, I want like, we want to promote the stars. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Jack Spiggers is a star. He's like, in my heart, he's a star. But point was well taken.
I feel
Jack
like Arkansas
Spiggers.
always has like some guys with names like that because they also at one point
great.
didn't they have a guy named Bo Bigham or something like that?
Oh yeah, another middle
Do
infielder.
I have that right? Yeah.
Yeah, and Jack Spiggers was from Texarkana or wherever that is. Like, because of course he's from there.
By the way, my players here, Pedro Alvarez for Vanderbilt. How could you not? I had another guy I have like burn in my brain watching him hit at Minute Maid Park when they played at the what is now known as the Shriners College Classic.
Price versus Rice in 2007.
That's right.
Number one in the country.
That's right. And then Arkansas, I'm going to go Brett Eibner, who was a two-way guy about 10, 15 years ago. Shout out to the Woodlands High School, which is not far from where I grew up. So he was a guy I knew about before he was at Arkansas because it was, friends of friends had played him in high school and so on and so forth. He was younger than I was, but just kind of knew of him from around the neighborhood, if you will.
Yeah.
Love it. Is it my turn for a series?
I think I get to do Vandy, Arkansas, and then if you want, you can wrap us up. I don't know how many rounds we want to do here. We could go around the horn again if you want.
Let's see how we do.
Arkansas, Vandy, player of interest for me. I'm going to go Bryce Cunningham. I thought was, if in fact Vandy remains limited on the mound, they need some people to step forward, and he seemed like the guy who was most able to do that this past week. I thought it was 4 pitches up to 96 miles an hour with some feel and strike throwing, which they didn't get from their starters, Patrick Riley. And, they didn't get the kind of strike throwing that they needed in the 2 bookend games of that series, but Cunningham and kind of the bullpen and kind of stabilized and gave him a chance. So I feel like, he feels like a key piece for them if they're going to have a chance here, if they're not fully healthy with Hunter Owen and Carter Holton. Which, is there any update on those guys? Have we heard anything?
On Holton and Owen, you said?
Yeah.
Well, just for this weekend, Holton is not available this weekend. Owen it was described on radio. Tim Corbin did a radio hit locally in Nashville and described Owen as 50-50. So okay. You don't love that because that kind of means that even if you do get Hunter Owen, you're managing your expectations, I feel like.
Yep. Arkansas player for me. I mean, again, this is just kind of an obvious one, but the Kevin Kopp story was unbelievable. And it's just, I mean, a 6-year senior who won the Golden Spikes Award. I mean, a guy that, he didn't even know if they wanted him back before that last season. He's like, I mean, like, should I go somewhere else or like get a job or like, do you even want me? And he shows up and like, he's just this cutter guy. He's never really done it. And all of a sudden he's the best pitcher in the country. I mean, it's an unbelievable story. And he was an awesome dude. Like just if you listen to any of his interviews all season long, special player and really kind of exactly like embodied what college baseball, the best of college baseball. And so did my man, Tony Kemp. Of course, you knew I was going to say Tony Kemp.
Another all fit Hall of Famer.
I mean, right there with Michael Roth is 2 of my all-time favorite players, period. 5'6", Tony, just electric player, won the SEC player of the year as a 5'6" guy. Like, how cool is that?
Well, then he became a big leaguer as a 5'6" guy.
That's right. And had a nice career and, just dynamic player, a lot of triples and just fun. Great personality.
I love that. Hey, boys, let's do this. Let's just rip through these series and we'll just go all players. If you got some commentary around the players, let's do it. But even the person previewing the series can just do a player of interest. So I'll take us to TCU at Kansas State. The player of interest in the series, I'm going to go Tyson Neighbors. Like that's the closer for Kansas State. He's kind of what makes them. He's their difference maker. So can they get him the ball in some key situations? Favorite all-time TCU Horned Frog is Preston Morrison. Love Preston Morrison. Favorite K-State Wildcat. This is tricky. I gotta say Ross Kivett.
Yeah,
gotta say Ross Kivett with the 2013 team. I can go back to the 2009 team, which was really good. But yeah, let me do those. Let me do those cats. Fitzy, to you.
Yeah. So player of interest here. Let's go Braden Taylor for TCU. I feel like he's been our player of interest all year long, but like, I think he had a pretty good weekend against Baylor, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it seems like he's playing well right now when they need. I mean, he's their guy, he's their star. He hadn't had a very good year, but I think, he's elevated his game, and this team is actually surging a little bit now. I mean, we had kind of written them off, and now they've won 6 straight games. So they're not done yet. Favorite TCU Horned Frog for me, I'm going to go Brian Holiday. I mean, heart and soul
Can't lose there.
Some Omaha teams. I mean, I guess that 2010 team, which was a team that I really loved, that 2010 TCU team provided us some great theater, really great memories. He felt like the heart and soul for those guys. And then for Kansas State, I mean, it's Kivett, obviously. Like, it's just I remember seeing Kansas State in a midweek game during Kivett's junior year, and it was cold in Manhattan, and it was like a Tuesday, and he hit for the cycle. And I thought that was really cool. And I talked to him out on the field afterwards, and he had so much swagger. Like, I never met this guy before, and he's like putting his arm around my shoulder and just like acting like we're old best friends. And I was just like, this is cool. Great. This guy's got talk about some moxie, man. That guy had some personality.
Jose,
did you consider tickling under his arm?
Yeah, I should have done that.
You should have just tickled him under his. Player of interest, I'm going to go Kalen Culpepper, Kansas State, third baseman. Really exciting, electric player. I feel like he may be a little under the radar. Part of that's he missed most of the month of March with an injury, but since he's been healthy, he's been a catalyst for them. Really helps give that lineup some depth and some pop and some electricity. All-time favorite Kansas State player. I'm surprised we didn't get any love, given that Kivett had been taken first. We didn't get any kind of love for Jared King or Shane Conlon.
Yeah,
those guys. Of those two, I'd go Shane Conlon as a favorite K-State guy. I mean, Kivett's obviously a great answer as well. For TCU, I'll go Jason Coates, Brian Holiday's teammate on that 2010 team. Aaron's right about the 2010 team. Like, I remember that team pretty vividly. That super regional against Texas was great. I remember where I was sitting watching all 3 of those games. So it was a very, very tightly contested series. So Jason Coates, Shane Conlon.
Was it
age? Oh, go ahead, Fitzy.
Was it Matt Curry who hit that grand slam in Omaha against Florida State? Was that the first baseman, the kind of big body guy? I think that's it. That was one of those iconic moments at Rosenblatt for me during that era.
Yeah.
Great highlight. Nobody picked AJ Morris or Nick Martini for Kansas State. They were in the holster. Yeah.
Thought about AJ. Yeah. Martini's another great one.
Oh, that was they were
AJ
incredible.
Morris, high school teammate of Rob Vaughn, I believe.
That's right. Yeah, and teammate. Yeah, love it. Joe, pick. We got 4 series to go. Let's rip through these. Pick another one.
Okay, let's go. I guess I'll stick with the SEC here. Florida and Kentucky. Florida excited to see what they are coming off of a really impressive week. Kentucky, all of their big picture stuff is still in front of them. Team can obviously they're at this point they're in the tournament, but they can host, and heck, if they win this series, they could be a national seed. So that's all really, really exciting stuff for a Kentucky team that myself included, a lot of people didn't know what to expect from. Player of interest in that series, I will go with Travis Smith, who was the Kentucky's midweek guy who has since moved into the rotation. Logan Martin has been out, so they needed somebody to kind of fill in there, and he's done so. Zach Lee has turned a corner. Feels like he's been really good for them. Tyler Bosma is what he is, and I don't mean that in any sort of as a pejorative, but he's not going to be a shutdown guy. So they need Travis Smith because he has a little more stuff to be the kind of guy who can give them some quality and some depth. And he has the stuff to do that. So as long as he's pitching in the first game of the series, that's going to be really important. All-time favorite Kentucky player, AJ Reed. Why not? That's a low-hanging fruit one, but
that's a good one.
That 2014 season was so fun. He was just doing things that frankly, you just don't expect a Kentucky player to be doing, especially in 2014, it was, but just really, impressive. Hitting balls out of the cliff at a time when a lot of people weren't hitting balls out of the cliff in February was just at a time when the bats were dead, right? 2014 was right kind of at the apex of that. So, impressive stuff there for AJ Reed. And then Florida is another one. There's all kinds of choices on,
this is tough to narrow down on. Florida.
I will go. You know what? I'll go with a current player. I think Josh Rivera's story is pretty cool. As a guy who came in highly anticipated, got off to a quick start, then kind of COVID robbed him of the rest of that season, struggled to get his feet under him, and now has put up a career year and has, I think, totally changed the way we think about that Florida offense.
Yep. Player of interest for me in the series, Herschel Waldrop. It just feels like whatever he becomes has a lot to do with what Florida's postseason becomes. All-time favorite Kentucky Wildcat. What was the 6'9" pitcher from Minnesota? Evan Jelly?
Yeah, Sean Jelly.
Sean Jelly. Yeah, he's my favorite. And then, man, the Florida all-time Florida Gator, Dalton Guthrie. Love me some Dalton Guthrie.
Nice.
Such a great player. Fitzy?
Call. Gators player of interest for me. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with Brandon Sproat because I actually had a pretty good look at him last week, and I've been skeptical at times about the ability of that center rotation to get outs, and obviously they have stuff, and Sproat is always throwing 99 or 100 miles an hour, but like. I feel like all those guys are maturing from a pitchability standpoint, and I saw Cal Leone at his very best, which was cool. But Sproat, the slider's better. It's 4 pitches. He's got the changeup. Like he threw strikes. He give him some length, and like if that's the guy, they don't need him to be like 6 no-hit innings or anything like that. But like if that's the guy that we're going to see going forward, sign me up. I'm in. Like, don't try to do too much. You got good enough stuff. Just throw enough strikes and you're going to be fine. But anyway, interesting guy there. I got a good look. Favorite Gator for me, I'm going to go Hudson Randall. Bulldog.
Such a good pick.
Yeah, Bulldog right-hander who was like a Friday night guy for them with all these big prospects they had. This guy was like, 88 mile an hour right-hander who just like competed his tail off, and he was the ace of their staff on some great teams. For Kentucky, I like Austin Cousineau.
That's a great pull. Oh, that's gorgeous.
Just a charismatic center fielder, spark plug, high energy guy. Great personality. Ran into him, years later, and just really like that guy. So that's what I got.
What's so great about Austin Cousineau is like he was a good player, and then we heard, at least for me, I heard that his last name is pronounced Cousineau, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's just like every tool plays up because it's not casino, it's Cousineau.
Yeah.
Very good. I think we got 3 series left. Do I go next? Who goes next?
Who could say?
Let me do the Mid-American Conference Series. Let's go Kent State at Ball State. And I just, like Kent State's having the best year. Ball State, you just feel terrible for Ball State's. If there was like a 72-team field, Ball State would be trying to go to the tournament for like the fourth time in 5 years. Like Ball State is the team that keeps getting clipped right off the bubble. And they've got another good team this year. Obviously, Rich Maloney does a great job, and Jeff Duncan does a great job at Kent State. But hey, that league gets one team, and it's been Central Michigan, and that's another great program. So this is neither team's. Kent State. You guys said it on the Nerdcast, Fitzy. Maybe if you squint, they're an at-large team, but probably not once the bubble gets hacked up. And it's an important series. Favorite all-time Kent State Golden Flash. Give me Andrew Chafin there, and then favorite all-time Ball State Cardinal. Give me Zach Plesac.
I like it. I'll go next. A player of interest here. I'm going to go Ty Weatherly from Ball State, coming off a great outing last week against Miami, Ohio. 11 punch outs, 7 innings of 3-hit shutout ball. And so, that's my guy. I can see what he can do against Kent State. My favorite Ball State player is, of course, Colburn Vidic. The guy that is the reason. Hey, he helped Teddy Cahill get where he is today, because I once, when I was at Baseball America, I was looking for a Colburn Vidic feature, and I Googled it, and I found this great piece that Teddy had written in the Ball State School newspaper, and I contacted him. I said, hey, can we run this?
A star is born.
And that led to Teddy's internship at Baseball America. And of course, we know Teddy now is our friend over there at BA as the lead college guy. So Colburn Vidic, shout out to you. Kent State, I'm going to go, I don't know if this is cheating, but I'm going to go Michael Turner, because the way he handled the whole rental player situation in Arkansas last year was just super cool. And he maybe he's more known because of his Arkansas days, but he was also a really good player at Kent State. And so there you go, Michael Turner.
Excellent. Joseph?
First of all, I don't this Cahill character. I don't know who that is. Maybe you guys can enlighten me later. Never heard of him. So for this series, I'll go Ben Cruikshank for Kent State. Kind of a cool story. Guy with all kinds of stuff. Was at Missouri State. Couldn't really get it going. Injuries played a role in that, but this year he's been huge for Kent State on the mound. All time for Kent State, I'm going Dirk Hayhurst, who is an author in addition to being a former big leaguer. Some very funny books about his journey through the minor leagues and what have you. Very much enjoyed those. And then Ball State, I'm going with the OG Brian Bullington. I think him getting drafted was the first time I'd ever heard of Ball State before, if I'm being totally honest. As a Texan, there's not a lot of Ball State stuff going around the streets of Spring, Texas. So that was, I think, my introduction to the entire university.
Oh man! So Kendall in our chat, he threw in Colin Cowgill for Kentucky, which is an elite choice. That's very, very good. We did leave some chicken on the bone for Kent State. Thurman Munson was available. John Van Binscoten, or however the heck you say his name, 8th pick overall for the Golden Flashes back in the early 2000s. So excellent. So Fitzy and Joseph, there's 2 series left. Who would like UNC Clemson? Who would like Oklahoma State at OU?
We got to do them both. So I'll just jump in here with North Carolina and Clemson. Again, North Carolina looked very impressive last week. The player of interest here is Max Carlson. Can Max Carlson build upon what he did this past? They need him, and Scott Forbes said it on Thursday after they beat NC State. They said, hey, we're going to give the ball to Carlson tomorrow. If we're going to make a run, we need him. We just plain need him to be like, it's that simple. We need him to be our guy. He's their ace. And he pitched like an ace on Friday and it shut down NC State. So that was an encouraging sign for the Tar Heels. Clemson's red hot though. That's a really neat series down there to end the regular season. Favorite players for these 2 teams. I mean, oh boy. Can I go Jay Matthews for North Carolina, longtime Colorado Rockies scout, who's a Tar Heel. I never saw him play. Of course, he's older than I am, but love me some Jay Matthews. So there you go. And then Clemson, I'm gonna go with, how about Matthew Crownover?
Yeah,
left-hander. I believe he was ACC Pitcher of the Year. Been involved
in
sports media since then. Guy's got some personality. There you go.
Matthew Crownover's doing stuff in sports media?
I think so. Yeah, I think he's done some TV, radio stuff, maybe some Twitter stuff. I don't know.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Joseph, what say you here? Player of interest and 2 favorites.
For player of interest, it's an overlooked player for Clemson, but Benjamin Blackwell. It's just like a really good story of finding a transfer that was not from a major program, wasn't putting up crazy numbers, but has just been a really good fit for them now across 2 coaching tenures, because he was there last year too and was a big part of that team. And now again, he's a 300 hitter who can play multiple positions, can play the middle infield, probably anywhere on the dirt. 21 stolen bases on the year. Just a guy who brings a lot to the table. And I know when I talked to Monty Lee about Benjamin Blackwell early last season, he was effusive in his praise of just a guy who wants to win and wants to fit in and being a team guy, which we know is such a big deal with transfers. So Benjamin Blackwell, all-time favorite Clemson player is Khalil Green. How could it not be? Like one of the craziest, do yourself a favor and go back and Google, if you're too young to remember Khalil Green in college or what have you, go back and Google it. One of the truly insane individual seasons in the history of college baseball. There's a few that are on that Mount Rushmore, with obviously Dave Magadan hitting 525 and Buster Posey's draft year. And Khalil Green has one of those types of years. Also did it as a senior, which is, not something you see a lot of. The circumstances obviously called for him to come back and he made good on that. Let's put it that way. So also just looked cool in a pair of baseball pants because those Clemson baseball pants are just iconic.
No question. Yeah.
And UNC, I'm going to go Chris Iannetta, catcher, longtime big leaguer, was kind of on those UNC teams that obviously weren't at the peak of what they would become, but was on those UNC teams as they were starting to head that direction and build what they were starting to build.
Love that. Player of interest in the series for me is Billy Amick. I hope I'm saying his name right. His dad's a NASCAR driver. Trying to Clemson's got some players that I just don't know that well. And Amick is killing it right now. Like, he hasn't made an out in like a week. I mean, just rake city. So he's DHing for them and lengthens that lineup. He's been an incredible run producer. Khalil Green is the right answer, Joe. He is my favorite all-time Clemson player. My second favorite is Seth Cerveza. Seth Beer, another all-time favorite Clemson Tiger. My favorite UNC player, Colin Moran. I just love a slow-footed redhead who wears out the field. And who's my other favorite Tar Heel, Fitzy, is who was the pitcher? I always want to call him Ryan White, something White on the 09 team. Alex White, yes. Because the thing that's so, I was working at ASU at the time, and what was so funny about UNC was so good. That was their fourth straight Omaha. You wanted to face Matt Harvey. When you were facing North Carolina that year, Harvey's the guy you wanted to see. And like, Harvey was about to become a rocket ship. At this point, he was just this talented, hard-throwing right-hander from Connecticut. But it was, Alex White, and I don't even know who else was in the rotation, but it was somebody ridiculous. They were so flippin' talented at that point in time. It was just comical. So, Joe, do you want to do Oklahoma State OU?
Sure, I would be happy to, Runes.
Thank you.
Big series, obviously a lot on the line here. Oklahoma State is kind of doing, I feel like we don't need to get on a tangent here, but Oklahoma State feels like they do this every year where we look, and you guys that do the Nerdcast know this better than I do, where every week it's kind of like, what about Oklahoma State? And then everyone's kind of like, yeah, maybe. And then by the time you come back around to it, you're like, yeah, I guess they're hosting. Like, because you look at the resume and it's like, yep, it's right there. But we all have kind of come away as like being underwhelmed or just not quite blown away in the way we'd like to be. And yet they just kind of take care of business. So I don't know if that's a positive or a negative. It just is. But they always kind of sneak their way back into being a host. And if they win this series, certainly they'll be right on track for that. Oklahoma still has a chance to get in the field. I'm not sure if, we thought that was a thing maybe a month ago. Looked like they had bottomed out a little bit. They took some just bizarre losses along the way, but here they are. My player of interest here, or I'm not doing player of interest. Look for Bryce Madron. That was going to be my guy. Oklahoma.
Oh, there you go.
Quietly, really good year. Leads the team in home runs. He's a guy who plays well in Reggie Willett's offense because he's got some pop, but he also can steal some bases. And in a year when Oklahoma, let's just face it, hasn't gotten the seasons they would have liked from some guys in the lineup, he's picked up a lot of that slack. So important piece there. All-time choices. Oklahoma, Ryan Rollinger, from the 05-06 kind of era, went on to be a big leaguer. Another guy who got drafted in 05, came back in 06, and got drafted again. So program guy. And then for Oklahoma State from the same era, Cary, North Carolina's own Matt Mangini.
Nice.
Was on those Oklahoma State teams then, and was kind of a player that if you think about what was Oklahoma State like as a program in the mid-aughts, like he was exactly that kind of player. Like he was mashing and putting up big numbers at a time when Oklahoma State had a lineup full of guys putting up crazy big numbers and putting up crazy records against really bad non-conference schedules. Like that was Oklahoma. Every year you looked up and Oklahoma State was 22-4 in March. And it was like, well, they haven't played anybody yet. And some years they were great and some years they weren't. And we never knew until they got into the Big 12.
That's so good. I'll go next. Player of interest in the series, I'll just go JWB. Juwan Watts-Brown he feels like the single most important guy to Oklahoma State. If they're shy anywhere, they feel shy on the mound, and he can fix that. Like he can, if you need 27 innings per weekend, he can give you 7 of them and in dominant fashion. So he's really important. Favorite all-time Oklahoma Sooner, give me Eric Thomas. Was an outfielder on the 94 national title team, then an assistant at Oklahoma, then a JUCO head coach, then assistant at Tennessee. Now he's an assistant softball coach at Florida. And I think I can speak for the group in saying one of the all-time great humans we've ever interacted with in college baseball. For Oklahoma State, I have to pick a player from the 80s. So, the obvious choices are like Brad Beanblossom or Robin Ventura. But and the Holiday family is one of my all-time favorite families in our sport. But my favorite Oklahoma State Cowboy is Gary Ward. Give me Coach Ward. That's who I'm picking. Fitzy.
Pretty good. Player of interest in this series. How about Jamie Hitt, guy that threw 7 innings, a 1-run ball last week against Gonzaga. Left-hander that we were high on heading into the year. Feels like maybe, as this team is made this little bit of a run down the stretch here, won 3 of their last 4 series. They've gotten a little bit of better starting pitching. Braxton Dowlett and Jamie Hitt this past weekend were key. So I'll go with him. Favorite players here, boys. For Oklahoma, I'll just go back 1 year and say Peyton Graham, because he was really fun to watch, did everything. Just an awesome career there for the Sooners. And I'll go with that one. And then for Oklahoma State, boy, oh boy, that's a tough one.
So many greats.
Yeah, that is a
Peyton Graham's a great pull, Fitzy. What a remarkable story that was.
Yeah, there was another. There's a name I'm trying to come up with.
It's Remy Reed is who it is.
Remy Reed, nice.
Peyton Battenfield.
What's the kid? Freeman.
Michael Freeman. Gosh, that's a great pick. Oh,
it's like the late bloomer. I think it was a 5th-year senior who was like a Rob Walton special, who became I don't know if he was a conference pitcher of the year that year. Kind of came out of nowhere, like big bodied joker who just figured it out late and became. And he's a neat, a great story. And one of those college baseball success stories. And I remember enjoying talking to him as well.
He was like if Joe Wainhouse became a pitcher. That's Michael Freeman was 6'9", wearing the high tops and just side armor. Oh, it was just so gorgeous. Yeah, very gorgeous. Good. Boys, thanks for indulging me on the college baseball history. Literally my favorite thing to do. This podcast was also brought to us by our good friends at Blast Baseball. If you're ready to dominate at the plate, Blast Baseball is trusted by more MLB and college teams than any other hitting solution. The Blast sensor attaches to the knob of any bat, providing real-time feedback with every swing. Go to blastmotion.com, enter the code D1Baseball at checkout, and you will get $10 off. That's D1Baseball at checkout. You will save $10. I will also say, if you don't even think about heading into the postseason without a subscription to D1Baseball.com, it will enhance your experience so much when you're watching squeeze play and super regionals, player pages up and RPI pages up. I mean, you got to have it right now. Type in SAVE23 at checkout, you get 20% off. Type in Kurt Reed at checkout, you'll get 20% off. Type in Martha's on Fire at checkout, you get 20% off. It's 20% off for all friends and family at this time. So, boys, anything I missed?
What was the actual coupon code?
SAVE23.
Okay, SAVE23.
Save and then the year 23. That's all you got to think about.
Runes, what is your conditioning looking like right now that you're 2-3 weeks out from squeeze play? What kind of preseason conditioning work are you getting in? How important is this time of year for you as you get ready?
Yeah, I just got new glasses that it's kind of funny. I can see TV screens better, but I don't know that I can read my computer. So that's, I don't know. Is it, do I dare, it's like a new pitch in the postseason. Do I dare tinker with my slider? But I think I'm going to do it. I like my attitude towards squeeze play is aggressive in all areas: caffeine, outfits, glasses, you name it. So I feel good. I feel like it's like a marathon. There's no such thing as ready for squeeze play. I would never take that arrogant of a position. There's no such thing, it's just, but you show up, you tie up your cleats and let's just compete.
Do we know who the rotation of people who will be sharing the screen, your co-hosts, if you will, who's in the rotation this year?
Rotation is myself, Chris from Louisville in his pastel colored blazers, and then Chris Budden and the great Matt Schick.
That's it. That's perfect.
Real who's who. Yeah.
Are we gonna have the Chris Berg Easter collection coming back? Do you think, or do you?
I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't. It's you got nothing but rave reviews from my parents, so I don't know why he would let my family down like that when he could show me up like that. Incredible.
What is your family's review of your sartorial choices, Rune?
I couldn't get them to review it. All I could get from my parents was Berkey's jacket was so sharp, Matt Schick's so funny, and Chris Budden is so great. That's all I could get from my parents. I couldn't even, I don't know. Is no news good news there, Joe? Or that's just a bad sign?
No, I mean, perhaps so, because I mean, they're also not being critical of the performance. I just think, you're very good at understanding your role on that show. And look, when you're sitting next to a talent, a photogenic talent like Chris Burke, you just understand that you're a facilitator. You know what I mean? Like, obviously the spotlight's going to find him.
Your job is to reflect the spotlight off your shiny dome and right onto Berkey. That's all you got to do.
We can do that. Yeah. Let's end it with this. The only review that mattered for Squeeze Play last year was when we were in the Hilton Bar in Omaha, and some old Miss fan who was having the time of his life, at least on his 22nd beverage, ran by us and screamed "Squeeze Play" at the top of his lungs at 1 a.m. Once that happened, who cares? Like, every other review is meaningless to me.
That's the best.
That is a 5-star review. No doubt about that.
That is it. Everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. Games are Thursday, Friday, Saturday this weekend, except for one conference, which will go unnamed. And we will be back next week to preview conference tournaments, and we will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.